We may begin.
Welcome to the Cannabis Regulation Commission meeting. Today is Thursday, February 15th, 2024. The time is 4:10 p.m. And we are in the Building and Safety Boardroom at 201 North Figueroa Street, 9th floor, Los Angeles, California. I am President Cyrus Mason, and I will be chairing this meeting. The following commissioners are present: Commissioners Farmby, Lim, Melendez, and Nash. DCR's Executive Director, Jason Killeen, is also present in this meeting along with members of the department and the City Attorney's Office. I'm going to go over some housekeeping items before we get started. This meeting is being recorded. Therefore, we ask that when addressing the commission, you speak close to the microphone and only one person at a time. Please state your name each time you speak. Members of the public who wish to listen to the commission meeting and not provide public comment may call council phone at 213-621-2489 or 818-904-9450. This meeting is also being live streamed. Individuals who wish to watch this meeting may do so by visiting cannabis.lacity.gov and clicking the About menu item on the top. Under the About menu, click the Commission Meetings link. Scroll down to the bottom of the Commission Meetings page to find the live stream. We will be following the agenda order. Agendas are located on the table by the entrance door along with speaker cards. Individuals who are physically here and wish to address this commission must fill out a speaker card and specify which item or items you are going to speak on. Individuals can provide public comment or comments about a specific agenda item in person or virtually via the Zoom link provided on the agenda. If you are present at the meeting, please fill out a speaker card and turn it in to Irene or Josie. When I call your name, please come up to the podium and clearly state your name. If you are in the Zoom call, when the item you wish to speak on is called, press *9 on the speaking queue. The Commission Executive Assistant will call out each speaker by the last 4 digits of their phone number to identify the caller. The caller will be prompted to unmute themselves by dialing *9. We will consider single or multiple agenda items together. Speakers have 1 minute per item with a maximum of 2 minutes per multiple items. We ask that speakers state which item or items they are speaking on before they begin to comment, so that staff can appropriately time them. If the speaker does not specify which items they are speaking on, 1 minute will be provided. PowerPoint presentations that were prepared by staff and will be presented to the commission today are made available to the public via a link on the specific agenda item. Please turn off your cell phones or put them on vibrate so as not to disturb the proceedings. Please be respectful. Disruptions will not be tolerated. If you disrupt the proceedings, you will receive 2 warnings. If you continue the disruptive behavior, you will be asked to leave the meeting. We will now open single or multiple agenda items. Speakers can address the commission on items in today's agenda. If you are listening on the live stream and have called to provide public comment via Zoom, please mute the live stream audio before you begin speaking to eliminate feedback. Again, please mute the live stream audio before you begin speaking to eliminate feedback. We will alternate between calling up individuals here at the meeting and those on the call. Please bear with us. Are there any speaker cards or callers?
President Mason, there are no speaker cards
Thank you.
and there are no callers in the queue.
Okay, we'll give it 1 minute.
Sure.
Thank you.
There are no speaker cards and no callers on the queue.
Thank you. The single or multiple agenda item period is now closed. We have the election of the vice president on today's agenda. Is there a motion to nominate the commission vice president?
This is Young Lim. I make a motion to nominate David Nash for Vice President of the Commission.
Is there a second?
Second. That's on Farmview.
Thank you. Ms. Treviso, please call the roll.
Commissioner Lim, how do you vote?
Yay.
Commissioner Farmby, how do you vote?
Yay.
Commissioner Melendez, how do you vote?
Yay.
Commissioner Nash, how do you vote?
Yay.
And President Mason, how do you vote?
Aye.
The vote is 5-0 and the motion passes.
Well, congratulations, Vice President
Congratulations.
Nash. Commissioners, you should have an advanced calendar in front of you with our future meeting dates. Please take a look and advise if there are any planned absences from any of the commissioners. This is President Mason. I will not be available on Thursday, June 20th.
This is Anton Farmby confirming that I will not be available on April 4th and May 2nd. And as President Mason stated last time, only any of us will be available on July 4th.
Noted, thank you.
Are there any other absences? Thank you. Moving on to approval of minutes. We were sent the minutes of January 18th, 2024 for review. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
This is Shi Lim. I move to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Anton Farmby, a second.
Thank you. Ms. Treviso, please call the roll.
Commissioner Lim, how do you vote?
Yay.
Commissioner Farmby, how do you vote?
Yay.
Commissioner Nash, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Melendez, how do you vote?
Yay.
President Mason, how do you vote?
Aye.
The vote is 5-0 and the motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to approval of amendments to the Cannabis Regulation Commission Rules and Operating Procedures. Does the department have a summary of the proposed amendments?
Hello, President Mason. My name is Emily Watt. I'm here from the City Attorney's Office, and I'll present the amendments to you, the proposed amendments. The CRC rules and operating procedures, we call them ROPs. There's many changes that we're proposing, most of which, the large majority actually, are just merely technical or non-substantive edits. This includes things like grammatical changes such as to capitalization and just organization, such as moving information from one paragraph to another. There are, however, a few substantive changes that I'm going to highlight for the Commission's attention. As you'll see, most of these changes are necessary to keep the Commission ROPs up to date with the LA Municipal Code, which have been amended since these ROPs were last adopted. So I'm going to talk specifically about 5 ROPs. The first one is ROP 4.3A, and this is about regular submissions to the Commission from the public. I'd like to point out there's 2 changes that have been proposed. The first is that the proposed amendment extends the deadline for regular submissions to the CRC from 2 p.m. on the Thursday of the week prior to the week of the CRC meeting, and it changes it to 4 p.m. So that gives the public 2 additional hours to make regular submissions. The second change is that the proposed ROP eliminates any mail-in requirement. So now a member of the public simply needs to email copies to the administrative assistant. So these changes collectively will improve public access and participation. The second and third
Can I
proposed,
ask you a question?
This is Commissioner Mason. Go ahead. Commissioner
Yes.
Vice President Nash.
This is Vice President Nash. Did you indicate that it eliminated the duty to mail copies?
correct.
I'm looking at 4.3A and it indicates that copies must be mailed. Oh, delivered or mailed. Okay. Got you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from anybody else?
That was my question.
Okay,
It's either or.
right.
Okay.
But before it was required. It was and.
How would
Yes.
they do that?
How would they do what?
If they're electronically delivering it, would they send it?
They
8 times?
email it to the commission assistant, which would be at cannabiscommission@lacity.org.
Would they have to send 8 emails?
No, they just send the one.
This is President Mason. To the commissioners, when you address her, please state your name for the record and then ask your question.
Commissioners, may I? Rocky Wiles, with DCR. Sometimes if an applicant may have a lot of material to submit, they can also give us a thumb drive, so they can actually deliver a thumb drive to us if it's a lot of information. That's what we've had in the past.
This is Commissioner or Vice President Nash. I think that is confusing, and it looks like they still need to deliver 8 copies.
Okay. So we could take a look at that. Do you mind if I- Draft. Oh dear. Okay. Thank you. I will note that and make further amendments. You know what, actually, would you mind if I think I may have an incorrect copy in front of me. This is the proposal. I think this is the incorrect copy. One second, please. Well, I do wanna, I think that the copy that was linked in today's agenda, so maybe this needs to be continued to the next meeting. The copy that might have been linked to today's agenda is the existing ROPs instead of the proposed ROPs. Which is why it does state that 8 copies have to be mailed in. As opposed to the proposed ones, which do not state that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so, but if I could ask a member of DCR executive to quickly check the hyperlinked copy.
This is President Mason. So the copy that is before the commissioners today, is that correct or wrong?
It looks like it's incorrect, so perhaps we should continue this matter to the next meeting when we can post the correct version of the proposed ROPs.
I'm okay with that.
I think you have to
So
Motion
moved.
it.
President Mason, is there a second?
Second, Anton Farm.
Ms. Treviso, please call the roll.
President Mason, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Commissioner Farnby, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Lim, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Melendez, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Vice President Nash, how do you vote?
Aye.
The vote is 5-0 and the motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to commission announcements and updates. Commissioners, are there any announcements and updates? Hearing none, we will move on to future agenda requests. Commissioners, are there any future agenda requests? Okay, hearing none, we're moving on to item 2, report from DCR on the annual licensing process. Is there a report from staff?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, President Mason, Jason Klein, Assistant Executive Director for the Department of Cannabis Regulation. I do have a presentation for you today. I apologize, I'm battling a cold, so I am wearing a mask. If you can't hear me, just let me know and I'll try to speak clearly.
Thank you.
Next slide. So today I'm going to go over the department's annual licensing process, provide a brief background, some upcoming deadlines, talk about the non-retail license activities, the annual license activities for retail storefront, which will be before this body, and then some of the fees that are associated with the annual licensing process. Before I jump into the rest of the presentation, I will provide just a brief narrative on the number of records before the department. Currently, we have 61 pending pre-application records. 48 are for social equity and 13 are for general applicants. We also have 1,292 annual licensing records before the department. And businesses are allowed to be vertically integrated so they can pursue one or more commercial cannabis activities. Those records contain almost 2,000 activities. The exact number is 1,943 activities. Approximately 400 of those activities are non-operational, so those businesses do not have temporary approval to engage in that commercial cannabis activity. And the remaining 1,500 do have temporary approval from the Department of Cannabis Regulation to engage in commercial cannabis activity. Of those businesses, the state confirms that there are over 1,300 active provisional state licenses for the Los Angeles marketplace. Those businesses will have to transition to annual licensure between July 1st of 2024 and June 30th of 2025 to remain operational. And that will be the basis for today's presentation. Next slide, please. So the annual licensing process is really the culmination of multiple years of Cat Packer and Director Garakian working with the mayor and council to formulate our local policies. Originally, only our phase one or existing medical marijuana dispensaries were able to get temporary approval. The code was amended to grant the ability for all other businesses to pursue temporary approval in lieu of getting their annual license. Amendments were made last year to actually align our local annual licensing process with the state's annual licensing process. Originally, a business had to have all of their building permits, fire permits, health permits, and their state annual license to request a final inspection and then be able to be granted an annual license from the city. That, of course, did not coordinate well with the state's requirement that they have a local annual license before they could get their state annual license. So Director Garakian worked with the mayor and city council to amend the municipal code so that folks qualify for their local annual license, get their state annual license, and then get their building permits, fire permits, health permits, request their final inspection, and then get an operating permit from the department. So in order to lawfully operate, you need to have a state license and temporary approval from DCR and or a state license and an operating permit from DCR. The annual licensing process is a multi-step process. Once we've deemed the application complete, it could take up to 120 days for the department to make a determination. From the time an application is deemed filed, we have 30 days to issue a notice of complete application to the applicant. And then once we've issued that notice of complete application, we have 90 days to either make a recommendation to this body or to the director of the DCR. There's going to be many concurrent deadlines for applicants as we go along with this process, and it's going to vary between retail storefront and then all other activities. Because of deadlines at the state level, the city has begun to notice complete applications to folks that are facing a July 1st, 2024 deadline to have their local annual license. So we are prioritizing those records to ensure that folks have their local annual license at least a month before their state provisional license would expire, because that will give them an additional 30 days for the state to process their annual license so that they can have continuous operations. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, we're prioritizing based on when a state license expires. We're also prioritizing based on social equity status. So our social equity non-retailers and retailers are prioritized above general applicants, and then general applicants are at the bottom. This is based on the municipal code, which asks the department to prioritize on different ratios, the processing of social equity applications versus general applications. Next slide, please. On January 29th, 2024, We issued the first set of notices of complete applications for the retail storefront and micro business with on-site sales activities, which are the type 10 and type 12 types. This formally began the annual license application process that the commission will take up. For those initial 16 applicants, we will be conducting their community meeting on March 14th, and then we will be presenting those cases to this commission on April 4th. We are going to be deeming additional retail storefront applications complete basically on a bi-weekly basis. So with the exception of the July 4th holiday and a couple of the commission meetings that may be canceled due to other holidays, we have a full slate of retail storefront cases that will be coming to you from April 4th through the remainder of this year. And then new cases coming to you next year as our phase 3 retail round 1 and round 2 applicants submit their applications and meet the application requirements. So we've got a full slate ahead for you. The annual licensing process for our non-storefront cases are much simpler. We are not required to conduct community meetings. We don't have to do public hearings. Once we've determined that the application is complete, staff will complete their staff report and present it to the director, and then the director can approve or deny those applications. What we did last year is we bifurcated records before the DCR. So our phase 1 businesses or the existing medical marijuana dispensaries were vertically integrated. So they had retail storefront, cultivation, distribution, manufacturing activities. We separated the retail storefront from their other activities. So all of the records that start with an LA-R for the retail storefront activity are things that will come before this commission. Their other activities can be, we can complete the staff report, develop the environmental report, and provide that to the director prior to this commission taking up consideration of their annual license for the retail storefront activity. So we're trying to move as many licenses through the formal process as possible without holding things back because we're waiting for a different body to make a determination on the annual license. The environmental reports are not being piecemealed. The environmental report written for the non-retail will take into account retail activities or retail storefront activities that are occurring at the location. And when this body sees the report for the retail storefront application, it will also include the environmental analysis for all of the non-retail activities associated with that business. Basically, one environmental report will be presented to 2 decision-making bodies. One, this body, one, the director, but it's both the same analysis. So everything is consistent and everything is taken into account. Next slide, please. Here you see one of the grueling internal spreadsheets that we've created, which outline some of the internal deadlines so that we can move all 300 of the retail storefront businesses with a state provisional license through our formal process by the beginning of July, such that they can get consideration from this commission before the end of the year and continue operating as long as this commission does issue the annual license. What we've done is there's different types of notice that have to go out for the retail storefront activity. There's electronic notice. When we notice the complete application, that notice goes to the applicant, owners of the applicant, the city council member whose district that business is in, the neighborhood council whose district boundaries that business is in, the business improvement district, if applicable, and any stakeholders that have requested information associated with applications deemed complete. We also post electronic notice on the DCR's website. So on the same webpage where we post notice for the public convenience and necessity process, there's a section for notice of complete annual license applications for the retail storefront activity as required by code. When we do deem an application complete, as you can see based on this calendar, we have already predetermined when we're going to conduct that community meeting, when we're going to transmit that report to this commission for consideration, and what commission date that report will be taken up so that we can notice everything all at once. That reduces the administrative burden for the department, but it also reduces the cost for the applicant who is responsible for paying for the mail notice and all of the mailings that go out. So trying to be considerate of cost for our applicants and licensees, we do want to be as efficient as possible with our processes. So we do want to hold to this calendar because we're telling people well in advance, this is when we're going to do the community meeting. this is when we're going to have you before the CRC. And if we miss one of those dates, the code does require us to provide 20 days advance notice. So that would then impact an additional mailing, which would be potentially cost prohibitive, especially to a lot of our social equity businesses. If this body, question?
Yes, this is Anton Farby. Jason, I'm trying to follow your color coding here. I'm a little lost. Can you at least kind of explain to me the green, orange, and yellow?
Sure. So the color coding is actually the first set of commission meetings where we're anticipating folding in businesses that do not have a state provisional license. So if we were to look at the first blue line that has NA in the provisional expiration line, it's not applicable. So we know we have phase 3 retail round 1 and phase 3 retail round 2 businesses that will be entering our pipeline that do not currently have a state provisional license that we're going to have to fold into our process. So we need to take care of the folks that have licenses expiring between July and March before we can fold in new folks to make sure that there's no loss of operation. But we are planning to start to deem applications complete for folks that do not have a state provisional in early May at the latest.
Got it.
I apologize for not going through the color coding.
No, that's helpful. Thank you.
So just building off of the color coding, we're hopeful that we will begin to be able to deem applications filed in April for folks that do not have state provisional licenses and issue the notices of complete application at the beginning of May, so that we can start filtering folks that need to get their annual license to continue operating and new folks to get their annual licenses so that they can begin operating for the first time. And then really the green is like the next set. And then the yellow and the orange are hopefully going to be cases that will be coming to this commission where we've already taken care of all of the provisional licensees and made sure that they have what they need from the local jurisdiction. So these will be net new people who aren't currently operating.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. If this commission were to approve the issuance of an annual license, the following Monday, DCR would go down to Norwalk and file the notice of exemption with the county clerk. Doing so reduces the appeal period for the environmental appeal from 180 days down to 35 days. So that's important because the state will deem the environmental report final once the appeal process for those environmental reports is finalized. So that will save our applicants significant time and allow them to get their annual licenses sooner. We've been working really closely with the Department of Cannabis Control. They have provided us an aging list and they do provide us updated aging lists so that we can make sure we're prioritizing folks. But they've also given us access to a Dropbox. So once we file our notice of exemption with the county clerk, we can transmit that NOE directly to the Department of Cannabis Control so that they can begin finalizing that applicant's state annual license application so that when the appeal period is closed, they are in a position to immediately, within a few days, issue the state annual license. So you can kind of see here based on the first row, Director Garakian has really prioritized trying to get things to you at the beginning of April with the hope of us filing the first set of notices of exemption on April 8th. And then the appeal period, the 35-day appeal period would close on March 13th of 2024, which means that the state basically has more than 45 days to finish their analysis of the applicant's state application before a July 1st deadline. So we're trying to give every other body as much time as possible to make sure that our businesses continue to operate. The code gives us up to 90 days to transmit the report to this commission. But in most cases, we will be transmitting those reports in 60 or 70 days so that the state has the most amount of time necessary to keep people operational. Any questions on the internal deadlines before I move forward? Next slide, please. So as I briefly mentioned, the non-retail annual licensing process is significantly easier. Once the applicant receives their notice of complete application, staff will prepare their final report. That will be transmitted to the director. The director will either grant or deny the annual license. Once the director has taken their action, if it is approved, DCR will go and file the notice of exemption. That will reduce the appeal period for the environmental document from 180 days down to 35 days. And then following the 35-day NOA appeal period, DCR will be in a position to issue an annual license. If an appeal is filed, it will be heard by the city council, not this body. Next slide, please. Next is the more complicated one, which is the retail storefront businesses that will be before this body. So once we've noticed the complete application, DCR has 10 days to send electronic notice to a variety of parties. The applicant has 10 days to reach out to the local neighborhood council and offer to present before the neighborhood council. They have to make an offer to present, but they are not required to present, and the neighborhood council is not required to take an action on their particular application to continue forward in the annual license process. Within 45 days of deeming the application complete, DCR is required to conduct a community meeting. All of our community meetings will be conducted virtually. That will allow for all stakeholders who are interested in providing verbal comment the opportunity to log into a Zoom meet and provide their public feedback. We are also we have a jot form up and running that will allow people to provide written comment in case they're not able to make the community meeting. And then, of course, we'll continue to take community comments up until the time this body considers that case. And then within 90 days of deeming the application complete, DCR is required to prepare a report and transmit it for cannabis, the CRC consideration. Once this body acts on the item, if the case is denied, the applicant would have an opportunity to appeal to the city council. If it's approved, DCR will file a notice of exemption with the county clerk, and then we'll be in the finalization of their local annual license application. Next slide, please.
Sorry,
Yes, Commissioner Farby.
sorry. Anton Farnaby, I'm sorry, can you go back if you don't mind? Jason, a question about the neighborhood outreach number 2. You mentioned that it was not required in terms of the licensing process. In terms of time, does it impact the time at all in terms of them reaching number 6 for the annual license? Considering that it's not a mandatory step.
As long as the applicant makes their good faith effort to reach out to the neighborhood council and offer to meet with them, it will not delay the process in any way. The neighborhood council district, business improvement districts are welcome to come to the community meeting that DCR conducts to provide their feedback. They're able to provide written feedback directly to the department for those cases. And then we will summarize that feedback as part of our staff report before it comes to this body.
Thank you.
You're welcome. One of the things with the annual licensing process, there's going to be fees associated with the environmental review. Hopefully most of our businesses qualify for a categorical exemption. There's publication fees, there's written notice, there's mailed notice, there's community meetings, there's this commission hearing. Those all incur additional cost for our applicants and licensees. We've submitted a request to the Department of Cannabis Control to utilize the local jurisdiction assistance grant funding to waive a lot of these fees. That request has been pending since last April. We do have confirmation that categorical exemption and other environmental fees are eligible. They're looking into some of the other notice. So the director has made a decision to defer those fees until we get a determination from the Department of Cannabis Control, such that we can start to deem these applications complete and move them forward with the process so this doesn't cause any further delay. So right now, when we deem a application complete, we are sending a notification that these fees are being deferred. And then hopefully we'll get good news from the DCC and then be able to provide a further fee waiver for folks. And with that, that ends my formal presentation. Yes, Commissioner Mason or President Mason.
Hi, thank you. So if the state does not permit the fees to be waived, what's the time frame? What's the deadline for payment?
So the director has a couple of different options. So the default option is she can defer a fee up to 6 months. She can defer a fee up to the point of licensure. Or she may be able to defer the fees longer if we have grant monies that could possibly be used to waive those fees in the future. So right now, we're just using the generic 6-month deferral.
That's the default.
Correct.
This is President Mason. Will there be an option for perhaps installment payments?
The director has a lot of discretion in terms of the timing for the fees when they get actually invoiced. When we invoice somebody, the code has a default generally of 30 days, but it does leave a little discretion for the department to extend the period of time. And I know the director is working with the city council on an omnibus package for 2024 that could potentially include changes to the payment structure and some of her discretion.
Thank you. This is President Mason. Were there any other questions?
This is Commissioner Melendez. I'd like to ask a question. So what the chart we just saw, that we're trying to get the state to pick up some of those costs. Is that correct?
Correct.
And if they don't pick up those costs, President Mason asked a good question of who's going to, does that go to the applicant, or how much time are they going to have to be able to make those payments? And you said that that's the discretion of the director.
The director has the ability to grant fee deferrals.
Mhm.
So while we're pending that determination, we are granting the minimum 6-month fee deferral.
Mhm.
She does have some additional fee deferral options,
Mhm.
and she could take those into consideration if the state is unable to approve a budget modification to waive some of those fees.
Now, does this affect the timeline of the process at all?
No, sir, it does not. When we send out the notice of complete application, we are letting the applicant know that those corresponding fees have been deferred.
Okay.
Therefore, their application has been deemed filed and deemed complete. And then we start that 90-day clock.
Mhm.
And then on the back end, because these decisions will come to you before the 6 months have expired, the fees would either be collected as part of a renewal process or at some point in the future. But we're hoping that the state gives us feedback sometime in April as to which fees we will be able to waive.
And once they get the permission, say to have an annual license, what is the renewal time between when they get it to when they have to come before the board again to renew their permit? Is that an annual thing?
The license has to be renewed on an annual basis,
Mhm.
but they only have to come to this commission on the initial issuance of the annual license.
Okay.
So as long as the business continues to comply and they stay in compliance, and there's no reason to actually revoke the license, they wouldn't have to come back before this body.
Okay, thank you so much, Jason.
Welcome. Thank you, Commissioner.
Anton for R&B. Just for clarification purposes for me regarding the fees themselves, whether it's retail or non-retail, the discretion is the same.
That is correct. The categorical exemption and the environmental fees cover all of the records for that business at a specific location because it's fully encompassed. The mail notice, the community meeting, the commission meeting only apply to resale storefront businesses. And then any other notice like the posted notice applies to all of the activities, but the posted notice is only charged once because it's for that specific location.
Oh, thank you.
This is President Mason. So a comment and then a question. So basically, a best practice for those seeking a license would be just to set aside all those fees and not touch them in the event that they do have to pay them. I mean, it's just a practical thing to do.
The practical thing would be to set aside the monies.
Exactly.
The-
Okay.
The state The local jurisdiction assistant grant monies were intended to help transition provisional licensees to annual licensure. So the state code has fees that can be waived and then fees that can't be waived.
Mhm.
And we're trying to thread the needle between getting them to waive the fees that are tied to processes that they say they can waive, and then not actually assessing fees for the things that staff could conduct and we could reimburse staff time against without the applicant paying us the monies up front. So the admin group is trying to thread a very thin needle and then work with Dr. B and the social equity team to make sure we maximize those dollars.
Okay, thank you. And this is President Mason. And then my question is, for those licensees who are denied across the board, that means by the commission and by city council, that would then mean that there is one less license in the marketplace?
Know that, so the application opportunity would go back into the pool. So the department has the ability to conduct lotteries for any of the community plan areas that still have capacity. So for instance, if the Sherman Oaks Community Plan area was an applicant had a license and it was ultimately denied, that would just go back into the pool that DCR has the discretion to accept an application for.
Okay, let me rephrase my question. Then there's one less license in the marketplace until such time DCR opens up
Correct.
licensing again. Okay, thank you. Were there any other questions from any other commissioners? All right, well, Assistant Director Colleen, very thorough as usual. Thank you for your presentation and your responses to the questions asked today.
My pleasure.
Appreciate
Thank you.
With that being said, thank you all for attending. The time is 4:52 PM and this meeting is now adjourned.